Thank you for having me and putting together this panel. And it's great to see so many people here. It's an interesting question, the Bride of Gurbani. When I got the topic, there was a huge pause for me. And I'm saying, I don't know whether I want to speak on this because I'm not quite sure what the Bride of Gurbani is, right? So where do I go? I went to pick out the verses. And there are three verses in Bani. It's Suchaji, Kuchaji, and Gunbanti. And they directly speak to the bride. It is whether you are a Sohagan or a Tohagan, the separated one or the joined one on the path. The bride, if I look at it from that angle, from these three Shabads, shows great vulnerability, extreme vulnerability. She is reflective, there's an introspection, there is a facing of hard truths with honesty, gentleness, and compassion. That's the Bride of Gurbani. Now, if I take Kuchaji and go through that verse, the Kuchaji is the one who is separated. She's a bride, but she doesn't feel that, right? She doesn't. She knows that the beloved, that there is a distance between the beloved, and then there's that intimacy isn't there. And she knows that. She recognizes that. However, she doesn't wallow in self-pity. This is Guru Nanak Sahib speaking in the first person voice, in a feminine voice. She doesn't pity why she is ungraceful. Instead, she accepts the reality of her state and she humbly submits. So there's submission. In the Bride of Gurbani, there is very much a submission, humility, submission. She accepts the reality of her state. She doesn't whine. And she doesn't say, why am I not there? What she says is, how can I connect? There's a difference between the why and the how. And she says, how can I connect that deeply? And where does she go to? She says she sees the other brides who are connected under the mango grove, which means they are enjoying the coolness and the comfort. And she goes to them. She goes to them because to them, to ask them, how can I also be the bride? That's that Gurmukh, that is that Sangat, right? So when we move from that to the Suchaji, there's a shift in the Suchaji, and this is also by Guru Nanak Sahib. And the Suchaji understands her value. She understands there's a deep longing within her. She understands it, and she also knows what it means to walk in that will of the beloved, the will of the spouse, the will of the one, however you want to call that. So there's a transcendence from Suchaji to Kachaji. The Kuchaji and the Suchaji, because now she knows. And so she waits for that. There is that waiting, there is that patience, there is that longing. And she accepts at a deeply personal level. And she continues to work and walk the world in that space. So your next question, how do you walk, right? From that space that I am connected, that I am, there is that notion of within. And then the Gunbanti is the one who has the virtues. And she has moved from the stage of the self-centeredness to the wisdom-centeredness. And in all these three, there is that union, that longing for the self, the else, the smaller case self, the smaller S, which we are, to connect with the capital S, the larger self. So there's that union. So that's the Bride of Gurbani. At which stage are you at? Which stage am I at? And it could be all three at the same time.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
it depends on that, whatever that moment is. So when this topic came, Bride of Gurbani, I was like, ooh, I don't know. To even be a bride is a tall order. And then to be a bride of Gurbani is even taller. But what is interesting is that there is a path. We are being shown. It's being talked about. And that's the beauty of it. And so there is that, how do I adorn myself with these virtues? And it's all virtues. The adornment is all that. So nobody can tell anyone how to adorn themselves. Each one's journey is very, very different. Mine was very different. I think for me, the chiseling came when in the 2.5 years that I spent with Anansa, translating and being immersed in the Bani of Anansa. That was the major transformation for me. It was after that Bani that my mother said, "You are not the same." Because that's how Guru chisels, that's how Shabad chisels. Because those 40 steps, I didn't move until I could absorb, follow, and internalize an answer. So the bride is patient, the bride is willing to put the work, but the grace is always there. It is, are we ready to actually feel the grace? Grace is 24/7. There's no question about that. But when are you ready to feel the grace? And the bride of Gurbani feels the grace. And when she feels the grace, she walks the world with that grace. And everything then just, it's no longer a challenge. It just is. It's to be. It's no longer that tension, that friction, that whatever, because it is in that surrender, in that hukam, there is, it's not to say the challenges don't come, they do, but how you deal with them becomes different. So that to me was the Bride of Gurbani and a little bit about myself.
Thank you. That's stunning. Yeah. I mean, both you and Jessi are saying tall order. So that's exactly why we're here and discussing it, because I just yeah, I'm wow. Okay. We're gonna move on to the next half of the question. So this wow. Okay, so for Nikki and Sangeeta, I do want to say that what I'm sensing from what you're saying, Inni, is that even in the effort, there's a grace to the effort. You know, it's a different
The effort is, there is grace because there's no demanding.
yeah.
And even in that pain, there is no whining.
Mm.
So it's a very, so there's a beautiful poem of Paisa Paivir Singh, and he said, even if you don't come, I will live in this longing. This longing is as sweet. It's that longing, when that longing becomes sweet, when there is not complaint. Oh, मिठी लगती है oh, याद प्यारी हो जाती है. There's no complaint because you know it will happen when it's meant to be. But that longing is that grace to be in that. I saw her smile when I said Pavir Singh, and I'm sure she recognized the lines, which, the poem, probably because she has translated so beautifully his work. So
Thank you. Thank you. So we're moving to the second half of the question for Nikki and Sangeeta. How is she, the Bride of Gurbani, operating in the world socially and politically? Purpose, function, you know. So we can start with Nikki.
First of all, thank you, Meeta, very much for bringing us together. It's just lovely to be here and to hear my fellow panelists, all of us, thinking about Gurbani together. That's really very, very meaningful. I don't get this opportunity very often because I'm in Maine and my students are basically non-Sikhs. So to have this literature that we also share is extremely beautiful and meaningful. I'm very grateful to you. Also, I'm very grateful to you for your book. This is great. And how you the 24 cores, how you kind of go to Gurbani. You see it, it's like a mirror for you, and you're challenged. You're not going to, so it's both kind of makes you see where you are and what you can do. And I think that's really, really significant. But if I may ask, I don't know who did the cover, the painting. It's really beautiful. I love the braid and the ikonkar there. I've been looking at it and is there any mention of it? And I didn't see any. So, but anyway, that's a question for you. We can discuss it later. Okay, now you asked me about the purpose, the function of the bride, and how is it socially, politically functioning. We have to first keep in mind, what is the bride, the Gurbani bride? We have to understand that. Why is this symbol, why is it so pervasive in Bani? And I think the first thing is to remember is that we are all brides of the same husband. Sabbe kant meheliyan. This verse is repeated over and over in the Guru Granth Sahib. Again, Guru Nanak says, Keti nar var ek samal. Keti nar var ek samal. So in a way, remember, he's making us cognizant that there may be countless brides, but there is only the one groom, one husband. So this is very, very significant. What does it mean? That we are all equal. So the first point is, why is the bride symbol so significant? Because it's talking about the equality of us all. We are all, no male, female, no kind of biases, no gender roles, no sexism. And not only that, but also all castes, all religions, all ethnicities, all races. So it's a very profound symbol that is being reiterated in the Guru Granth Sahib. So one, we are all the same. We're all brides of that singular one. So again, emphasizing the divine unicity, the oneness, ikonkar, that one is right here. That's number one. Number two, the bride is significant because of the materiality. It's the body. That's all that adornment that Jessi and Inni have been talking about. It's so the body, which is not part of many religions, the body is to be denounced. So this is the material body. This is what we have. This is what we possess. And so the whole emphasis on life and being, this kind of three-dimensionality of the human being is very, very significant. So Guru Nanak over and over again, and we must not forget that. And we have this tendency, and I really, to talk about the purpose, how is it being socially, politically translated? I don't think so, because we really don't understand the bride. So the bride is a figure, a female person, human being, because we are all brides of the same one. So I think that's very important to realize the significance of the body. This world, and this is not asceticism. We look at images, and Guru Nanak did not care about the ascetics, the Naths and the Siddhs and so forth. People who denounced the world and sat up somewhere, did not get married. So the bride image, it's kind of really life affirming, sanctifying the body, sanctifying this life together with partners, with families. That's number two. Number three would be the potentiality of the bride. It's really beautiful. She's coming into a new world. She's youthful, she's young, and it's a new horizon that's opening up. And to me, that's very remarkable, because the world, the 15th century India, medieval India, where Guru Nanak was operating, things are very kind of claustrophobic. people are becoming more and more orthodox, casteism and genderism, parda, sati, and, he was operating within double oppression of women. I mean, here we have on the Indic world with all its rules and regulations and codes, laws of Manu. And then we have something else coming from the Middle East and so forth, with Islam, with its own kind of submissive attitudes and so forth. And this is what he saw. And so in a way, the bride symbol, it's kind of really kind of opening up a new horizon, a youthfulness, a very kind of, affirmation. And the fourth point about the bride is that Guru Nanak is, and the gurus, all of them, kind of not only with fellow humans, but also with nature, with other Nagan Homa, she serpent, and with the doe, here honey and machli and so forth. So it's kind of creating an association with all species, all female species. So it's very, very profound, this image, so it's not just a singular bride, but it is to see ourselves in a wider whole, in a collective whole. At the same time, everybody's individual, everybody's particular, and your question is very profound, that we need, how do we each tackle this? How do we live like the bride? So here I feel we are not doing justice. There's something lacking. We have a very beautiful, empowering model in the Guru Granth Sahib, great archetype, but somehow or the other, we are not progressive enough to kind of understand it. And we kind of create it and make it, stifle the bride, stifle her youthfulness, stifle her, just the word itself. You look at the translations of the Guru Granth Sahib, of the bride, anywhere the word Suhagan comes in, Sakhi comes in, Kaman, Nar, any of these words, what is attached to it? S-O-U-L, soul, bride soul, female soul, soul. Now, soul is what? Soul is not physicality. It's not a body. It's a disembodied self. And so you're making this person, this three-dimensional woman who's all life. And, Inni was just talking about the Suhagan and the Duhagan and the virtuous one and the talented one. Gunvanti, there are all verses. Guru Nanak has whole hymns on the Kuchaji and Suchaji. Those are the words, Suchaji, Kuchaji. We would not be if you have a soul. If you're a soul, soul is disembodied. So we're made into ghost-likes, and somehow the other, our society does not want to, socially, politically, we do not want to see three-dimensional women. And we make them into this kind of disembodied soul. It's taking place 400 times, 300 and almost 84 times the word, whenever the female comes, it becomes it's latched on with the soul. So what I'm saying is that the power of the bride, the symbol that is so full and rich and vigorous, is not translated. And for that, we need to really see what is the newness, what is the uniqueness of the Sikh religion. We cannot have those old cultural lenses and start reading the text. And that's what what the hermeneutics and the exegetes did, Choppa Singhs and so forth, They are the ones who were kind of, who had ingrained those kind of values and cultural codes. We're all people of habits. When I started translating, I used to do God and he and so forth, because that's how I learned it. Can't help it. This is how things are perpetuated. But what I'm asking is, and that's what I admire you all, you are going and looking at things. You're looking at the Gurbani yourself. And that's what we need to do, because it is really a treasure house. It is a mindful, and we can just every time, we read the same Shabad today, we can have some understanding. Tomorrow may be another one. And it's not static by any means. New translations are needed, new meanings, new interpretations, because it's timeless and it's multivalent. There's no one word. This describes this particular word. So, and to me, I'm old, but to me, the bride image is really beautiful. I feel young. There's a new day. I'm going to do certain things. I'm going to write. I'm going to teach. I'm going to think, and I'm going to reflect and relax and rest and cook and do all sorts of things. So it's never, so there's something about the bride, which is kind of very, and she's also wise. It's always, it's not just the body, it's also the mind, the cognition, the cognitive aspect. The sister, the bride are smart. I think Guru Nanak has this Ditani, she's the smartest of the lot. She gives advice to all the young people in the family. So these are women of great wisdom, these married women, these brides who come into the in-laws' house. They are greatly cherished, they're greatly treasured. But in the everyday life, I don't know. You may be better aware of that. So that's all I want to say for the moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikki. Okay, let's move to Sangeeta. Do you want me to repeat it?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
How
First,
is
go ahead, Meeta.
you want me to repeat it?
Sure.
How is the Bride of Gurbani operating in the world socially and politically, purpose and function?
So, I also, when I first thought about the Bride of Gurbani, it kind of also, I really was perplexed. I wasn't sure how to respond. And then I kind of just, kind of, thought about how to name the Bride of Gurbani. So what are the aspects of the Bride of Gurbani? And it was just kind of, brainstorming in a way. So I came up with this idea of beloved and partner and the yin and yang and, a complement to something, to the divine, and not the ungendered bride, kind of what is the gender, what does gender mean, and what does it mean to reject gender? Symbol of regeneration, strength, nurture, nature. These are the things that came to my mind when I was thinking about, and I love what Nikki G was saying about, the bride, thinking about the bride as a being, a physical being. So what I really, thinking through that, what I really kind of wanted to land with was the concept of humanism. And for me, much of Gurbani, much of Guru Nanak Dev Ji's life was so centered around humans, not male, female, this caste, that caste. There was this deep, at least that's how I interpret it. That's how I've thought about it. What does it mean to be human, and what does humanism mean, and how do we apply that in relation as Sikhs in our everyday lives, and in particular as Sikh women, how do we apply that idea of humanism to as a tool for, self-affirmation, as a tool for strength, the ability to fight, also to fight for things that you believe in, that power. So, I that was kind of my overall feelings about this concept of the Bride of Gurbani, that we really, and I guess because we're supposed to think about the political and social as well, and maybe that's where some of these kind of feelings or ideas kind of help me define it in my own way. So that was pretty much it. The other thing that I thought was very interesting was, there's a concept in anthropology that we talk about as holism, thinking about human life from multiple perspectives, not just one perspective. So again, I think vivacious physical being who has a lot of potential to achieve many things. And, what do women do? They do so much, and yet they're, that often we are always pushing against the stream of, what is the value of women in society? What is the value of women in philosophy and all aspects of human life? So I guess for me that this kind of almost I imagine the Bride of Gurbani as a person or as a symbol of strength, of resilience, of all the things that so many women often have to, rely on in their lives that, we don't always necessarily talk about. And I guess I'm also feeling this way because if you look at the news, it's sad that women are not still being seen as equal humans, and that there's so much distortion of each individual when we spend too much time on gender and identity and all these things, and we forget that each of us is unique as a human being. And how do we kind of bring that feeling, that image of the bride to the forefront of the way we understand the Guru's mission? And yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I took some notes, symbol of strength and resilience, and a tool of self-affirmation is a tool of power, and a vivacious physical being. I'm just gonna join you for a brief second. I'm adding myself. So this was a wild card question, and I'm so happy. I took a risk with this. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but I'm so satisfied. I feel like there's so much to think about and understand. So thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. And so now, okay, so this was maybe me getting a little too technical. I'll give this one, I'm giving this one to Sangeeta and Nikki. So Sangeeta, we'll just start with you and then go to Nikki. How is the Bride of Gurbani and the Divine Servant as roles intersecting yet distinct? What is the relationship between these two roles?
I understand the concept of the divine servant. But again, I guess I'm uncomfortable with the term servant in this context because again, women are always in service of something. So maybe a servant, maybe there is a positive interpretation of the servant as one who is, engaging in nurturing and seva and, supportive, that kind of supportive role, which often is so kind of underestimated in our daily lives. To serve someone is to serve them because you care, because you want to help them or love them or allow them to find what they need to kind of prop themselves up. And so, yeah, I understand the divine servant in the context of Barney, I think, and maybe I'll let someone else define what that exactly means, but I think it's
Sangeeta,
just a term that I'm kind of struggling with because there are so many also negative elements around that term. So
here,
maybe
that's on me. Let me clarify. What I was thinking about was divine servant in terms of divine servant leadership as a model. So in leadership or when we're out in the world, there's many models we can choose from around how we lead. And this is why I put the question out there. I was like, I don't know if this is even right, but divine servitude as a leader is, I was like, does that it feels like it embodies the qualities of the Bride of Gurbani. Now, I'm not sure about that, but that's why I put the question out there because I was just going around in my own head.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think seva is a good kind of concept around this idea of what is our role in the community, what is our purpose, and what do we get also? You know, I was talking to a friend about how it's when we do something for someone else, you know, this idea of altruism, right? When we see someone struggling and we give them a hand, we're not just helping them, we're not just healing them, we're also healing ourselves. And so maybe that, to me, that's what really behind seva is not just the physical, it's the psychological and the emotional kind of gift that you're giving to the people around you who may need it. And again, by giving that, you are also being rewarded emotionally. And there's a lot of, you know, kind of ideas in psychology about pro-social behavior and why we don't, psychologists for a long time only focused on what we would call kind of, you know, psychological problems or disease. And now there's this kind of new field of pro-social, of like pro behavior that's really being studied. That is that what is it about human beings that encourage that most, not all, but many human beings, you know, if someone falls, they will go and try to help them up. What is that about us? And, you know, there's, again, as an anthropologist, you can argue that we've evolved and our species has evolved because we have enough of that pro-social behavior to sustain us and our communities and the world more broadly. And so there's, and again, I think that Guru Nanak Dev Ji was, in many ways, to me, and what I've written about Guru Nanak Dev Ji was this idea of institution building. You know, that's the work that I did over the last few years, is thinking about how the gurus thought about Gurbani, about seva, about community through the building of institutions. And that is what kind of, you know, when you have these institutions, you're really lifting everyone up, and or hopefully you are. And so I mean, I think that that's also an important element of the idea of the divine servant, to kind of be there to kind of for the community and also for yourself.
Yeah, I love what you said about when we're serving, we're healing ourselves in that service as much as the other. So that's a feedback loop that I like that you spotlighted that. Thank you. Nikki?
No,
You
I loved what Sangeeta said. Makes perfect sense to me. And there is, of course, an intersectionality between the servant of the divine and the bride of the divine, you know, because there is devotion in each case. You have to be devoted. You have to have that love. You want to serve. And, you know, so there is a lot of overlap between the two. And of course, this is very popular, you know, in the Guru Granth Sahib, Guru Nanak, you know, uses the word slave, das, or, you know, oh, there's a very nice one of a मैं बंजारन राम की तेरा नाम वखर वपार जियो. You know, the person, she's like, oh, I'm a gypsy of yours, you know, and your name is what my stock and everything. So there are verses where the woman is kind of, you have that kind of close connection between the bride, somebody who's a lover of the divine, and somebody who's servile to the divine, who's working for the divine. So these are overlaps. But I agree what Meeta was saying. Who was my Sangeeta was saying earlier about how, you know, there's a notion of servility in of course, with the word servant of the divine. And we always think that's kind of the role of religion. You know, we are the devotees and here is God and we are always serving God. But I think And it is very good at the social level, yes, helping others out, building humility. And as you said, we are rewarding ourselves, we are being more fulfilled and gaining ourselves emotionally and in many different ways. But on the other hand, I think the bride is somehow unique. There is something more intimate about it. The relationality between the divine and the bride is much closer, whereas there is always a gap between the servant and the master. And that intimacy, that love, and its empowerment, and this confidence here. The bride she's almost like an equal to the divine. Why not? They love each other. And so to me, that's, I want to be the bride. And that's very important too. And there are so many other, emotions that are, created, evoked in the Guru Granth Sahib, the divine mother, father, brother, sister. So there are tons of them in the Guru Granth Sahib. And your choice about your question, Meeta, about the servant is an interesting one. It's there. Yes, of course, the bride is that. When we love somebody, we want to serve them wholeheartedly. So there is a real overlap. But on the other hand, I think the bride is much more intimate. There's the closeness, there's a nexus, and we want that. So.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Thank you, Nikki. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next question. So we're gonna start with Inni on this one. How does the Bride of Gurbani navigate the world with her presence, being guided by Guru Granth Sahib, or perhaps in lockstep with our divine husband? How does she navigate the multiple forms of Maya and worldly power playing out?
So Nikki said something really interesting, that the bride there's an intimacy, right? There's an intimacy in that bride relationship. And when you love someone, you will do anything for that person or that being or that entity or whatever it is. So if you're in that headspace and nothing touches you because you're already in that space.
Wow.
It is. And I've heard about, and I listened to what Sangeeta said, where the word, because I hear this also, the word, when we are translating, servant slave has very negative connotations. And yet I say that when you are in love, you are the dust of that person's feet. How do you become that dust? So I'm even going lower than the servant. And that is devotion. That is bhakti. There is bhavni. Bhavni is that word, is that devotional. When you are willing, it's not even a question, you are willing. The you and the I is erased. And you walk a very different tune. It's hard to understand, but it's very much there. And if you read between the lines of many writings where people talk about their experiences, you will see that. Very much part of it. So how do you navigate the world of Maya? Maya is something which, anything that takes you away from that devotion, anything that takes you away from that remembrance, that experience, or that with that one. So it's constant, but the question is the devotion, right? How do you, it's practice, it's not practice. These are conscious decisions you make along the way in your life. These are choices you make. If this is the path you want to take, and it's not for everyone, we must never assume that this is the only way, or this is the way. This is a way for those who want to walk the path. And for them, then when they have made the decision to walk the path, then there's a practice. Then there are choices they make. And in those choices, Maya is one of them. How do they navigate that world? And each one of us does it in very different ways. Some of us stop watching, some of us do this, some of us protect ourselves in X, Y, or Z ways. There isn't one way. But you become very aware of the minefields in your life. You become very aware of the touch points where if you go that route, you know there is going to be a place where you're going to be surrounded or there is pain. So there is an awareness. You are actually, the Bride of Gurbani is living with an awareness. That's is living with the presence. And for her, that presence overtakes everything and anything, and she will do anything to protect that presence. That means it's becoming the dust of someone's feet or becoming the it doesn't really matter. Because her love, it's not even her, it's that love that she is protecting and devoting to. And it's never a person. You never think you're doing it for someone else. Actually, you're doing it for your love. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਦੀ ਇੱਜ਼ਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, that the fact that you are loving, that love which has emanated from you for this entity or for this, you are actually protecting that love. You're honoring that love, which becomes very different because in the worldly sense is, well, I'm doing this for someone, I love someone, so there is a quid pro relationship. That's a transaction. That's not love. In love, there is no transaction. There is no such thing that I'm doing this and therefore I'm getting rewarded. There is no reward. There is nothing. Love just flows and you don't have a choice. If you think you have a choice, you're mistaken. Love is. And one thinks that, oh, I want love. No, you've got to be ready for love. Love will chisel you in such a way and you'll say, this is now how I imagined love was or is. And love says, well, here I am. Now deal with me. And that's where the sacrifices, and that's where the becoming the dust of the feet and the servant all then becomes very real and very, very much alive. And then you understand that every word in Bani is actually an emotion and a feeling, because whatever is written there by these 35 incredible contributors is their experiences, how they experience the divine. So if you want to experience that divine, if you want that experience, then look at them, look at their experiences. And then what do you need to do that? That's for us to figure out.
Wow. Thank you, Inni. I heard this one kind of insight that, you know, people will come across our path and will show our devotion, show our affection, and it may not work out. Friend, relative, lover, whatever the role is, right? And we keep attaching ourselves to that person where it was really about the way that person ignited the love within us. And we reached that, we ascended, and that's what we're chasing. But we're attaching it to these people who are crossing our path that may be helping us along. Yeah.
It got you a glimpse of that love, right?
Yes.
You got attached to it. But walk. Thank you for doing that, because I now know what love is. I have a glimpse, I have a taste of it. It's something, and it's just a hint, but it's something much more. And I want that sweetness. And when you want something that bad, you will do anything and everything for that.
No, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna move to Jessi. And Jessi, do you want
Something
me?
left to say?
No. You want me to
So
repeat it?
so beautiful listening to everyone.
So how does the Bride of Gurbani navigate the world with her presence, being guided by the Guru Granth Sahib? How does she navigate the multiple forms of Maya and worldly power playing out in this physical world?
So again, Meeta, the guidance comes from Gurbani. Love is intense. Love is all consuming. And Maya, like a serpent with many heads, is constantly coming up. Like there is nothing that is not Maya, right? Everything is Maya. The way we get distracted, the movies we watch, the shows we get attached to, the stories, I mean, everything is Maya. But as long as they don't take us away from our commitment, from that intensity of the love that lives with us, as long as they don't cloud it, it's okay. Guru Arjan Dev Ji in Sukhmani Sahib talks about, the best luxuries that you can surround yourself with, the perfumes you can use, the chariots that you can ride. And that's all wonderful. It can be Maya if it distracts you, and it can be grace and the gift of the divine as long as it keeps you connected with the divine. So I'm very fond of good clothes, good bags, good shoes, good jewelry, you name it, right? But if that is all that consumes me, and I cannot think of my purpose and my commitment and my love gets clouded, then that's Maya. Guru Arjan Dev Ji says that you can enjoy all of this. And then there is that line that you can laugh and you can play and you can eat and you can enjoy. I love Sikhi because it's so practical. Love is intense. Love is all commitment. There is another name for love, and that is discipline. As long as I am, and he uses the word awareness and discernment. Is this so consuming that I'm going to waver from my path? That I'm just going to become this Maya, be swallowed by it? Or I'm going to enjoy being in it and be so grateful that I have these gifts? I remember when I was little, my mom would, she knew that I loved nice dresses and she would sew them for me and then dress me up. I was the only child, the only girl. And she would say Vaheguru. Thank Vaheguru for it. This is your gift from Vaheguru. Every Gurpurab, I got a gift. Every occasion that was auspicious, I got a gift. I was a pampered only child, right? And so I love those material things. But I also know that they cannot be so consuming that I forget the giver. I enjoy them. I am grateful for them.
Yeah, I like that.
Is life going to be so distracting that I give up my practice, that I give up my love? By nature, what I love about Gurbani is the passion in those verses, the graphic description of, the word is, it's not something that I like, but relishing, right? Enjoying, just the rapture of being with the beloved. Now, on the worldly plane, that could be Maya, so distracting that you forget the real beloved. That could be Maya, or that could not be Maya. It all depends on your engagement and the type of engagement you have. It all depends on whether you see it as grace or the ego comes in and this is mine and this is yours and this is who I am. I become the thing rather than accept it as what a gift. So that to me, being the person I am, Hasandya, Khadandya, Khalandya, Kavandya, enjoying good food and thanking each for the enjoyment of the food, when the word why, the wonder, retaining the innocence, retaining that sense of wonder. You put a grape in your mouth and the juices come out. right? You open an orange and you look at the packaging and the beautiful veins and oh my God, the taste, right? So if in everything that you see, you hear, you enjoy, it's a gift of the divine,
Mm.
and that attunement is constant, then it doesn't matter what you have, what you're enjoying. Maya becomes your servant. You know, it doesn't begin to rule you. And that is the slippery slope. That becomes the slippery slope. That you get so entrenched in it that you forget the giver, that you forget the beloved, that it distracts you. The minute it distracts you, it's Maya. Otherwise, it's a gift. That's how I see it.
Thank you, Jessi. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I said it's a vibe. It's a
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
When I wrote Home of the Beloved, it was my journey. You know, they say you write, you teach what serves you. I actually don't have a problem with the word servant. You know, growing up in a Christian school, I was taught that it's good to have a servant's heart, a serving heart, because the servant nurtures and nourishes and makes you very important and gives. And the greatest giver is the beloved. So when I wrote Home of the Beloved, it was my journey. It was the virtues that I wanted to inculcate. It was the awareness that I wanted to have about how do I, as the bride of Vaheguru, go back home with my virtues, my discipline, my love intact in this world of Maya. And I can't say that I'm there. I know that it's a daily challenge. Sometimes after I binge watching a show, I'm like, oh, what a waste of time, right? And then I have to understand that that is the way I decompress. It's okay. I don't have to I don't have to beat myself as long the example that Bani gives of love is that the mother is engaged in doing all kinds of things, cooking, cleaning, sewing, whatever the mother is doing, but her heart and her thoughts are constantly with the child. The school must have gotten over. I have to get ready. I have to finish this or get into the car, go pick up the child, right? It is that love that is such a strong connection that it doesn't break. That is the bride. That is how the bride maneuvers the attractions and distractions of the world with grace. It doesn't come easy. It is only with grace. And to me, discipline is important. And that's why I say it's another word for love. How far are you going to go this? How much of your time you're going to invest in fluff, and how much of it is actually being with your beloved? How much time I'm spending with my beloved? And my beloved is also with myself, right? Within me. How much of that time I'm spending in silence, reflecting, introspecting with Bani, with unpacking the mystique when every word of Bani speaks afresh, anew to me. What it spoke to me a year ago, even a day ago, may be quite different from what it unfolds to me today. My beloved is ever fresh, ever new, and keeps me ever fresh and ever new. And I love that. I love that. I love the fact that I love life. I love the fact that I love the gifts I've gotten, whatever that might be, tangible, intangible, ethereal, people's company, my friends. All of this keeps my cup full. And most of all, it is my love for my divine that flows. Sometimes it makes me cry to think, where is all this love coming from? Someone mentioned the yearning. I think it was Inni. That virag, Gurbani calls it that's king. That feeling is supreme. Virag no sultan kya hai? It's the supreme feeling. It's the most beautiful feeling that you can have. And that can come with so many things, seeing a child, we have a new dog. My God, he fills me with so much joy. That's a gift from my beloved to enjoy. So I'm not an ascetic at heart. I love the worldly things. I love beautiful things. I love the luxuries, the creature comforts. But in all of those, I want to stay connected and grateful with every breath, because my gratitude is also a form of my love. My servitude is a form of love. My connecting with people and making someone smile by just a genuine compliment is my love. My not looking at the shortcomings or things that irk me is my love. My continuing to love in spite of not being loved is also my love. And at the level.
Thank you,
That's a
Jessi.
poet. You could just go on, Jessi. We'll
Thank
just keep
you.
hearing about love.
Thank you.
It's
Well,
basically the bride, if I may, Meeta, the bride of Gurbani is love.
Yes, it's all love. And that
That's
color of love, you
and
radiate
it
it.
flows in multiple ways, different ways.
Absolutely,
It is.
absolutely. And what about the beauty of Sikhi is that there is no judgment. You stay connected, and that's all. That's all there is. You stay in love. What a beautiful way to live, to stay in love.
yeah. I'm commenting on myself. I'm like, yeah, I got a long ways to go. But thank you, ladies. We can't even get next to the last question. I'm gonna hand it over to Sonia, so I'm gonna unpin myself. This is Q&A from our audience. So let me just unpin myself, and then I'm gonna go ahead and pin Sonia, and she's going to navigate any questions from the audience.
Thank you. I know Navpreet Kaur had commented that she wanted to say something about the divine servant. So Navpreet, if you're there, you can go ahead. And for anyone else who wants to participate, you can just do the raise hand feature or just let me know in the chat and I will go ahead and pass it to you. But Navpreet, if you're there.
Yes, I'm here. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I kind of wish this whole conversation between the four amazing women could be like all created into an essay, because they all added so much. Even just each of them by themselves was so rich, but then the combination was like the world needs to hear this commentary on Gurbani, I feel. Not the old commentary that is no longer applicable or it doesn't even make sense, as Nikki said, right? So I'm really in awe of hearing all four of you together. But there's so many things that each of you said that I wanted to be like, oh my God, yes, yes, yes. But just for a moment, this divine servant concept, that I've never heard that term exactly in that way. And when it was said, it really evoked something interesting in me. And what it evoked in me is sort of along, I think Sangeeta actually touched on it, what it evoked in me, but you just touched on it slightly, Sangeeta. So I'm going to just try to share my thoughts about that. Of course, I understand servant being when we love, we just completely devote and give. And I know that experience. And it's profound experience, and it transforms you and changes you, right? I know this. However, if you ask the question, why all this devotion? What is the purpose of all of this devotion? Why God? What is this construct of God? First of all, I don't even believe in, using that word God. But anyways, for a moment, we'll use this thing called God or divine or whatever. Why? And the answer really is clear, right, in Gurbani, which is, it is to wrestle with our ego, right? To evolve to a higher level than we are as a human, right? But then even then, why? Why to do that? And I think the answer is the divine servant. It is to serve ourselves in the end. We serve quote unquote God, right? Which I'm totally all for. I believe in it. But in the end, it ends up serving our own selves because we evolve to a higher frequency, a higher vibration, to the best vibration. It ends up just serving our own selves. But we can't do it by ourselves because our mind will always get in the way. We have to devote to a divine and something that's above us. But in the end, that divine servant is serving, we're serving almost not ourselves, but do you see what I'm saying? Like, it is in service of this life form, this life opportunity to evolve.
Navpreet,
So that
if I may interject, I think it's also, you raise it yourself actually very profoundly. What is the divine? Who is the divine? And I think that is oneness.
Yes.
So I think it's like
absolutely.
getting rid of the ego and so
Yes,
helping. So it's not. You're right. So when we serve, we in a way are doing it for ourselves. But I think it's also to transform our society, to make everybody else come up higher. I think that,
exactly. Evolve. Yeah, it's like we are in this ever evolving journey
yes,
of individuals, of a society,
of society. I think it's
of
really kind of building that collectivity, that sense,
right.
the
And I see that, right? And I see that in the previous generation. I look at their understanding of God or Vaheguru, right? And I look at how that's evolved and changed over the 2 generations that I'm seeing, right? And I see, wow, we've changed, we've evolved, we've come to a higher level of understanding now. And it seems like it'll keep happening until we really reach and understand what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is talking about. And I think we are starting to unlock now more so than ever before. I mean, as a society, I'm saying, maybe individuals have, but as a group and as a society, I feel we are unlocking the mystery that Guru Nanak, that before seemed like such a mystery and seemed so unattainable, and now seems more practical and now makes more sense. So we are evolving.
Navpreet, a big part of it is that the feminine voice is heard, that we're moving away from the patriarchal interpretations that have been handed to us, not just by Sikhi, but by other influences, the sinfulness, the punitive aspect of the divine, all of those things. This
Exactly.
love aspect, this pure love aspect is Guru Nanak's view. There's nothing
Exactly.
punitive about the divine. And I think we're
Exactly.
moving away from the interpretations that have been handed over to us.
Yeah.
And somehow our experience or the age that we are in is making us really more intuitive interpreters instead of more intellectual.
Exactly. And experiential too.
And experiential.
Intuitive and experiential.
Versus,
Which to me is just speaking to our evolution, right? As Nikki mentioned.
And I love that everything you're touching on is basically the basis of Kaurs Reimagine. And it's that realization that we can't go at it alone and that we do need one another and we need to give voice to these people and these experiences that are not being heard in previous generations. So it really just all ties in, and that is the mission, to get these voices heard. Amar, I'd love to move on to you.
Hello, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. First of all, I'm so grateful to be in the presence of such beautiful thoughts. I'm a total fangirl here right now. I've for Inni Kaur, your 52 Shabads. There's a podcast series that you did for Sikri, which were immensely supportive to me and very, very inspiring. And I could go on, but what I really wanted to comment on was, Nikki, you that concept of disembodied soul. it was so perfectly articulated. I wish I'd had that statement for when I was writing my story, because it really was how I felt. That, you know, my mom had explained the meaning of Anandkaraj to me when I was 17, and explained it to me in that way about two souls joining, and there was a lot of conversation about souls, and I never understood my body. And the experience I went through in my life has me understanding my body a lot more. I have this intellectual understanding of what the soul is, but I think this transformation of understanding the body as much as I try to understand the soul, and maybe it's not even a matter of intellectually understanding, but of experiencing through Shabad and Simran. But yeah, I just really I'm going to hold on to that statement of disembodied soul. Yeah.
Thank you, Amar, because, you know, it really is. It's all kind of getting from the colonial, the English that we learned, you know, it's coming from those Christian missionaries, you know, even I've been saying this for a long time. 30 years ago, I said there should be no soul in the Sikh tradition, or Lord or God. These are the three words I have great trouble with. Small little words, but they create a lot of havoc. Just recently, a very eminent scholar of the Hebrew Bible, he just translated the Hebrew Bible, and he himself acknowledges, this is Robert Alter, very eminent comparativist literary person, and he says it has only come, even in Judaism, the word soul is used, but it is inappropriate because it is entirely a Christian concept. So there too, people are discovering that it is erroneous. And here in the Sikh tradition, it really doesn't. It's life, jiva. You know what Jessi was saying. You know, it's a vitality. You know, it's not a soul, disembodied soul, a ghostly metaphor. And I don't know why we just love it. You know, the Sikhs love this word, and we keep coming back to soul, S-O-U-L, S-O-U-L, and it just takes away the vibrancy of the human body. And I must say, in my latest book, Guru Nanak's Transcendent Aesthetics, please get it. It just came out from Cambridge University Press. And I talk about the five, remember Panch Parvan, Panch Pradhan, Panche Pave, Dargeman. I mean, we kind of consider them as the elects and so and so. To me, these are five senses. The five senses, which we can evolve into the five virtues, Sat, Santokh, etc. Or these are the five that can degenerate into all the negatives, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Ahankar. So, so to me, that's very important. And so, yes, we are embodied selves, you and me, and we have to make the best in this life. We have to change this world. We cannot have inequalities and hegemonies and so forth. So it's a collective responsibility. And that's why Seva, Sangat, all these are very critical in the Sikh tradition.
And if you go
Can
to
I
soul,
add
and
one
Nikki, if I
thing?
may just add, so if I, you know, is it because we use the soul, is to abandon responsibility? It's like, okay, next world, right? The salvation concept. So we are going back onto it. Because if it's the soul, well, we have no connection, you know, it'll happen, whatever it is. So we abandon that by using the word soul. We don't take that responsibility. It could be. There's a thought. I know the men, you know, the translators were all men, and so they were uncomfortable using the word bride and women and, you know, girlfriend and cherry, especially cherry, you know. So it's easier to put the soul in there and just dissect it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and to that, Inni Kaur, you know, that comment about you know, I think as women in brought up in a Sikh culture, Sikh society, the concept of seva is very beautiful, is very profound. And I think women definitely take that on. And I really, you provided some great clarity for me today in just one statement, because I was really struggling with that. And just similar to Sangeeta's struggling with answering that concept, the question around servitude, because we take that on. It is a beautiful way to approach life. However, if done in an unprotected environment, it leaves us at a disadvantage. So then who do you serve? Where do you serve? How do you serve? And when I was listening to you, and when you're under the protection of Vaiguru, because there's truth there, concept of using words like God, I don't know what else to say.
One.
Divine.
Yeah. Yes, there's some protection there, but I feel like in the world of Maya, the approach of seva, of servitude, there's less protection there. However, I think what you said was, which I'll hold on to, is if it's your love that you're protecting, and there's this and not an attachment to people necessarily, but when it's the love that you are, your own love that you are protecting and serving, that in itself allows your service to continue without being taken advantage of.
Guru Nanak, in my opinion, was the greatest lover. The greatest lover. His poetry is love poetry, and his descriptions sometimes are very, very intimate, very intimate. He loved the earth, he loved the air, he loved the environment, he loved humanity, he loved his beloved, his guru. So there is no reason for us to shy away from our physical embodied experiences when our guru has really aligned his poetry to a very great degree with that. Even the description of the husband and wife, I mean, he says that that union is so beautiful, it's so enjoyable. When you read Bani, I mean, you're like, wow, this is very cool. He has experienced that love.
Sangeeta, was there anything you wanted to add before we wrap up?
I think the thing that stood out to me, again, going back to concepts like Chardi Kala and what Jessi was talking about, joy and emotions. I mean, I do think that sometimes we are kind of, the philosophy of the Guru Granth Sahib can be, sometimes feel like it's disembodying us in a strange way, because it's a difficult thing to absorb and understand. It's not, but I do feel that there is something about what Jessi was saying is like, this embracing the joy around you and how that helps you kind of expand that joy. And so basically what I'm saying is that we sometimes feel that connecting to the divine is this kind of very difficult journey that we have to undertake, and it's as if we're trying to reach for something outside of our own mind, body, emotions, experience, history, and all that. But that in fact, it's our ability to embrace our own journeys and our experiences and histories, and use that in a way that is edifying for ourselves, but also, edifying for the people around us. And I mean, to me, Sangat is that, right? That's what this concept of Sangat is, to be there for each other, but also learn from each other. And it doesn't have to be just about the individual versus the group. It can be that kind of flow between those experiences. And I think that's one of the brilliant things about Guru Nanak Dev Ji, that he really he understood the importance of community, of sociality, and how important that is for us as people, you know, and I'm not saying that every community, every Sangat is perfect. You know, there are, you know, kind of situations in which Sangat doesn't always represent the kindness, the love, the respect that we are supposed to be, you know, offering to our fellow human beings. But being in Sangat is still really kind of very edifying, I guess, in a way. But I do understand that our communities are not perfect, our institutions are not perfect, but I don't know. But I do think there is room for, and I mean, this panel is a, you know, kind of, it is embodying this idea of how do we make our Sangats, you know, more compassionate, and how do we like not judge each other for the choices we make, and how do we kind of, you know, always go back to the idea of compassion and helping people who really need that help. And I mean, ultimately, like I said earlier, I mean, when we do that, we not only build our Sangat, we build ourselves up again. And, you know, given everything that's happening in the world right now, it just feels like we really need to be, you know, more aware of our own feelings and how we're working through those feelings, as well as how our communities are feeling and how they are working through that. And there's great examples. I mean, I guess I'll just end with, you know, something that really gave me a lot of joy was that during COVID, the Gurdwara at San Jose did such a great job, like offering people COVID vaccines. And my husband and I said, oh, we should go and, you know, get the vaccine. And we have a gardener and he doesn't speak a lot of English. And so we asked him, do you want to come with us? And he came with us, and you know, he got his COVID shot and sat down and had langar, and he was so, I don't know how to explain it. He was just so happy and so grateful. And and this is someone who lives a difficult life, but he just was thrilled to be there. And so I guess, you know, just making connections beyond just our community is also so important, and really is what makes us the community that we are, you know. I mean, the other day I was talking to someone about what happened in Delhi and all the, you know, the oxygen lungars that the Gurdwaras were offering, and there's just lots of people who are not Sikhs also who see this and who really appreciate this, and you know, just, and so I think Sikhi is a mind-body kind of tradition, and we should, you know, embrace both of those things, and certainly women in particular should embrace mind-body, and they should embrace who they are and what they can achieve. And so
Can I
I'm
Yeah, so
Yeah,
go
sorry,
ahead,
go
and then I'll say something.
well, I want to end with a little passage, and that was a little verse, and that was the mind body that you were saying, but I'll wait on that. So Inni, you go first.
You know, we've touched a lot about Sangat. So yes, the word Sangat is important, but you've forgotten the word before that, Sad Sangat.
That's true.
So let's not confuse the two. When we become the Sads, the saints, when we embody those saintly aspects, the Sangat changes. Sangat is just a collection of people. So it is the Sad, it is the Sat Sangat, which is that transforming part.
Yeah.
So the is to surround yourself not with Sangat, to surround yourself with Sat Sangat, with Sad Sangat. And that's how the transformation takes place.
How do we know that's Inni? That can be very kind of hegemonic, somebody's not this and not this. I don't think.
No, it is the question. Well, Sangat is just a collection of people.
Yes, which is very, and I think that collection is very important, that
Collection
collective
is
body.
important, but if you want to pursue, then there are always individual, or there are people. It's a Sat Sangat, where there is the Sat, where the truth is being spoken about, or where, there is whatever that is that you're going for, that is it. You can't get that in a bar. It is a place where you have to go. It is a discipline, but it is the Sat Sangat that it changes and transforms people to the next level. Or I don't want to say to the next level, it is to aspire in them those qualities that maybe they too want to experience that. And that's why I say this is a journey. It's not for everyone. Not everyone wants to do that. It is something which evolves, happens, and may not. And that's okay too.
Guru Nanak has a beautiful passage, where it's like people are like a bottle of perfume. So open it up, and if they're good, be with them and kind of emulate them and get their virtues. So,
Nikki, I think I know which one you're referring to. It's a bouquet. It's a bouquet of fragrant flowers.
No, it's a jar of perfume.
Okay, and then you gather that, yeah, and it's all about virtues. And the Sat Sangat is a collection of virtuous people who trade in virtues. By being with them, it rubs off on you, right? So yeah, Sat Sangat is important. I think that I was going to say that, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. For me, yes, it's not just any Sangat, and that's where our discipline and discernment also comes in. It's not that we are judging them, but it's like where there is peace, where there is.
But we can make a change for them too.
An expansion
I'm
of
just saying,
consciousness.
because Guru Nanak, when you see him journeying, he's meeting all sorts of people.
Absolutely.
So it's not that we're
He's
just
the Guru,
meeting
right?
good people. So, but we can rub off, so we can.
More power to that too. But really for us, it's important because Gurbani also says that the divine Vaheguru, the one, dwells in the satsang.
In everybody.
Yes, but
they
are
the ones who realize it. They recognize it.
The collective vibration energy or vibrational energy is higher.
Anyway, can I read, is this our finale? Can I just read my verse here? Yeah. The bride, what is it? So, Man mandar je deepak jale, kaya sej karei, gyan rao, jab seje ave, ta nanak bhog karei. I mean, look how vivid it is, okay? Preparing her body as a bed, she lights up her mind's temple. Nanak, the ruler of knowledge, gets in bed with her and revels with her.
Yes.
So this is the bride and the groom. There is knowledge, there is the body, there is the bed, there is love, intensity, unity.
Connection.
Unicity. Unity is what we want. Ik Onkar, and we want to be with that one. And each of us in our bodies, embodied selves, gets it, not souls.
Yeah.
So thank you, Meeta, for giving us this opportunity to share our whatever we feel.
Oh, we're so thankful. We're so thankful that we can gather you in this virtual living room. I'm going to hand it over to Sonia. We're so thankful for your time and your just bringing your presence and knowledge and experience. So thank you so much.
Yeah, echoing what Meeta said, I think we all came on to this Zoom tonight after a busy, chaotic day in our own individual ways. And the four of you allowed us to be transported to a completely different space. And there were multiple times during this conversation where the word wow just left my mouth. And I know I'm not the only one based on the chat. You've dropped so many words of wisdom, and that's the reason we wanted the four of you. We know that your journeys are so unique and so beautiful, and you've inspired us on our own individual journey. So we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to spend with us and for inspiring us in our days to come. And I know many of us in the chat are saying we are going to be thinking about this conversation for days, dissecting what you said, and we can't, we can't thank you enough. And that's exactly what we wanted to create tonight. And thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. And we hope you have a great night, and we hope you join us for future conversations. I know there were some people who still wanted to speak, and I know we are completely over time, but please follow us, find us at our next conversation, and we'd love to hear from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you. Thanks, Mita.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Hugs.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mita Kaur, Sonia Kaur. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you.